What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we have a guest whose journey is as inspiring as it is relatable. After more than a decade working for some of the biggest names in corporate America, I'm talking names like Apple, Nike, T-Mobile. Anurag Gandhi decided to trade in the boardroom for the grooming room. In this past May of 2025, he and his wife opened up Wolfgang Bakery and Grooming, Capitol Hill, in the heart of Seattle, bringing together their love for pets and community and high quality care. Today, we're going to talk about what it looks like to leap from the stable world of corporate America into the unpredictable but deeply rewarding world of pet grooming and retail. Anurag, I hope that was a fair enough intro based on your pedigree here, my friend. I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here, Alex. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome, dude. Well, what I like to do with all of my guests is, we always start, no good podcast, no good Daily Groomer podcast starts without an origin story. So take us back to the moment you decided to leave the corporate world behind. Like, what was going through your head, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alex, I'll start a little bit further, like before that, and just tell you how we got to this point. So, I come from humble origins. I was actually born in India, um, and grew up there until I was 18 in what I would say was a middle class a middle class upbringing. And my father actually always had dreamed to come to America to study, but he could never afford it. So he actually passed on that dream to myself. And so I moved to the United States when I was 18 for college. I went to college in California. And whenever I'd come to the US, I'd always be fascinated by how there's just an abundance of things and how things are so cheap and how all of that. So that actually led me to study industrial engineering in college to just understand how, mass manufacturing works, how supply chains work. And that sort of led me to the first part of my career. I worked, my first job out of college was at Nike in Portland, which was actually my first time in the Pacific Northwest as well, which I sort of slowly fell in love with. But yeah, so I spent a few years there. Then I went back to the Bay Area. Worked at Apple for a little bit. And then after that, I actually I did my MBA from the University of Chicago. So spent a little bit of time in the Midwest. And that was when I actually sort of, decided that, I wanted to be a business owner at some point in my life. I sort of really, one part of being a business owner I really enjoy is that you get to touch so many different, disciplines. And I'm sort of a naturally curious person. I like to solve problems. I like to have interesting stuff to do. So that's when that sort of first sort of went in my mind that maybe one day I could be a business owner. So yeah, after my MBA, I spent a few years again in corporate America. Did some the tech consulting, and then worked briefly at T-Mobile and another public company. I actually was laid off by T-Mobile, I think in 2022 or 23, and that or the end of or middle of 23, and that's when I realized that that sort of reaffirmed my desire to be a business owner, because I realized that a lot of times when you're in the corporate world, you're not entirely in control of your destiny.
Yeah.
It was around that time actually that my aunt was visiting from LA, and she brought her dog, who I love. Actually, I had spent a couple of years with her, like during the pandemic, raising a doodle, and like he's the sweetest guy ever, Teddy. I miss him every day. So she brought him up here to Seattle to visit, and we had a hard time finding a groomer. A lot of times we found that people wouldn't pick up the phone, or they'd say, "Oh, you can come in a few weeks." Or we're all booked, we're not taking new customers. Well, good for them, but that didn't solve my problem. And that's when sort of I thought that, hey, this is definitely an opportunity for Seattle, because it's a pet loving city. The running joke here is that there's more dogs than babies. I know for a fact there's more cats than babies, but I think there's possibly, or children even, and I think that that's probably true of dogs as well. So that's when I thought, oh, maybe this is an interesting business. I had actually groomed Teddy a little bit before, like during the pandemic. I'd given him a bath, and God, he's a doodle, right? So it's a little more involved, and I kind of like watched YouTube videos, figured it out, and kind of just
Yeah.
made something happen, and he looked pretty good, I guess.
When you realized, it seems like there was a natural opportunity in front of you. We had,
Mhm.
kind of this looming sense that you wanted
Right,
to start your own business,
right,
paired with, you getting laid off in the corporate world,
right.
paired with you realizing, hey, from a pet owner perspective, I can't
Mhm.
get that in anywhere.
Right.
I'm sure though, even with all that being said, it wasn't, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna open up a new business. So
Mhm.
what's kind of like the steps you took
Right,
to really step into, okay, I'm gonna do
right.
this. Here's how I'm gonna do this.
Right. No, absolutely. So actually, so one of the things I credit for my business education is it gave me like sort of a very structured way of like sort of like looking at what the opportunities were, and figuring out what was best for me. So I looked at, so the first thing I did was a simple Google search, try to learn as much as I could about the business. What to expect, what are the costs, what how much is it going to cost to set up, like I also looked at pricing in the area just to get a sense of what sort of the market looks like. Um, and then I spoke to a number of franchises. I think what I really like about franchises is that they have years of knowledge that is sort of condensed in, like people have already done stuff, they've made mistakes, they've developed processes that are great for everyone, the customers, the employees, and such. So I looked at a number of them, and when I came across, I had a meeting with someone from Wolfgang, and I was quite impressed by it. Um, I actually never stepped into a Wolfgang store before, but I had that conversation, like went visited a couple of their stores, and I was like, yeah, this is a great concept. You have a high end, customized, grooming service. It's like almost like it's like a spa experience, just like how you would treat yourself to a nice spa. Pet parents would treat their pups. Um, I also really like the sort of the mix of grooming and retail, and not just any retail, but like treats and cookies and things that look nice and taste nice and that are sort of boutique. So I really liked that, and I really liked sort of just the whole feel of the store. The aesthetic, the colors, just the layout, all of it. It felt very clean and nice. So that's what really stood out to me, and I obviously did my diligence with them. I spoke to their pretty much everyone I could speak to there. I spoke to other franchises, and yeah, my wife and I then realized that this could be a great concept for Washington, and for in particular for Seattle, and especially the area where we live, which is Capitol Hill, which sort of has a great population of pets, and a dense urban population also, relative to most of I guess the Seattle area. So
That makes
yeah.
a lot of sense. And if you don't mind sharing, Anurag, I mean, you don't have to go too deep here, but the process of buying a
Right.
franchise is
Hmm.
probably unfamiliar to most. Can you
Right.
share just briefly on the financial element of it? Is this something you can go get a loan for? Is this something you bring cash to the table for?
Right. Right.
What does that look like? I know you're probably a little bit more well versed in this than most of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can. Yeah. So let's start here. So franchising is something that exists across industries. So whether it's like burgers, or dog grooming, or plumbing, or pretty much anything, there's like thousands of franchises across America. The advantage of them is that you get to learn from years of knowledge. They're there to coach you. um, and generally there's a number of funding options that are available. You can if you depending on what the startup cost is in general of a franchise, you can if you have the cash, you can put that out. You could also go to investors, potentially your friends or other people who want to invest. You can convince them to take some of their money and give them a share in the business. And then the US government historically has been wonderful at supporting small businesses through the Small Business Administration. So that's basically the government organization that helps you get a small business startup loan. It's called a 7A loan. And they pre-vet businesses. So certain businesses are just qualified for those. Wolfgang happens to be one of them. So it's a lot easier then to get a loan. But you still need to put some skin in the game. Typically, banks require 20%. We sort of ended up putting a lot more of our own capital in, but yeah, banks require a minimum of 20% down, and then you pay it over a 10-year period. So it works out pretty well. The franchise agreement, most franchises will have you sign a 10-year agreement. So that's a 10-year commitment to run the business. You can, of course, sell during that period if you find a buyer, which is not hard because it's a franchise system. So there's always possibly another franchise that can just buy you out, or you could buy them as well, and that's how you grow the business. So that's one thing. While I'm on the point of franchising, for people who like me, who like sort of running with processes, like structured processes, that works pretty well. And it's also a scalable way of doing it, so that you can potentially then, your first location does well, then you have an opportunity to do a second one, a third one, really depending on your appetite. So that's something also to consider. Yeah.
So we've gone through the, you makes sense that you picked the franchise route. That's something that you sought out and you wanted to do. You went through the diligence process. You chose the franchise that you wanted to be a part of, and you secured the financing. Okay, now we fast forward to opening.
Right.
Obviously, you've never run a pet care services business before.
Right.
What are some of these, first weeks looking like? Take us into a day of your life.
Right.
I mean, moving from corporate to now
Right.
running a bakery and grooming salon. What's that look like for the first few weeks?
Right. No, so I will say that Wolfgang provides some amazing training. So I actually had like some online training that I did months in advance. And then I also flew out to their headquarters in Florida and did some in-person training. So by the time, so even months before I had actually opened, I was pretty well versed in, what is the standard, like how am I supposed to hire people? How do I merchandise? How do I run the daily operations? And all of these aspects of the business. And it was really a question of me executing. I spent a lot of time, I will say, Alex, like hiring the right people, because at the end of the day, people are, it's really people and processes. Those are the two P's that are super important. So, so I spent a lot of time hiring some of the most talented groomers I could find, great store manager, great set of associates, training them even before we opened the doors. I trained them for weeks. They did the same set of online trainings. So coming in, even before we opened our doors, we sort of had a sense of, this is the standard. These are the safety standards. This is the services we offer. This is how we talk to the customer and all of that. So we had that, and since then, I'd say the last 3 months, it's been a learning curve. There have been challenges. I'll be honest, like that's true of any startup business. Managing expectations, all of that. But yeah, I'd say like now a typical day, we have dog groom that start getting groomed from 9 a.m. We go all the way till 6. And we always have someone in the front as well. And then I'd say I spend like less and less time now running the day-to-day. But I spent a lot of time in the beginning just to make sure that our operations were flowing smoothly. So
That makes a lot of sense, Anurag. Be honest with me, or what did some of those early challenges look like?
Yeah, so I think some of the early challenges were like, we may have booked the wrong time for a dog, or that we didn't follow up with a customer, and so they didn't show up, but if we had called them to confirm, then probably they would have come, or we could have just given that appointment. So there a lot of like small things that end up making a big difference. We've had an excellent record on safety, so that's been very strong. um, I have a pretty strict no drama in the salon policy. I'm a professional, and everyone I hire is a professional. So I think I've been pretty strict with that, and telling folks like, hey, this is your workplace, this is sacred, you're here to do a great job with the dogs. And so I think that's something we've ironed out as well, to be honest. So yeah, for anyone looking to start a grooming salon, like the hardest part is really finding the right people, and then making sure that there's a sense of teamwork, and that that whoever's in the back, they sort of work well together, not step on each other's toes. I think that's something really important to consider.
One of the hardest parts in the grooming industry is finding talent. Finding
Mhm.
that perfect mix of qualified plus, you said it, low drama plus hardworking.
Right.
Finding the perfect mix of the right groomer to bring on our team.
Mhm.
Obviously, that was a challenge that you guys, dealt with as well. Can you share some learnings and maybe what's worked for you guys to attract that high quality talent? And then, even some of the expectations that you've set for them. It seems like you've set, professionalism at the
Mhm.
core of that.
Right. Right. So I'll start with this. Like, we are a great place to work because it's a new shop. It's very well equipped. We have a high end clientele, high end services. So it makes us a desirable employer. Also, we compensate our folks well. So yeah, we're obviously a desirable employer. In terms of the process itself, I will say we try to talk to groomers on the phone, get a sense for what they're looking for culturally. What are they looking for in the next gig? What kind of environment they would thrive in. And usually, like in those conversations, we get a sense for whether this person would fit well with the team. um, and then I also have folks come in for working interviews, so that we put them in the shoes. Obviously, we train them beforehand a little bit. And then what I'm really looking for is great finished product, great skill, and also like folks that are coachable, because sometimes you find people who might be good at some things and not so good at others, maybe communication or whatever it is. And that's something that I very actively try to coach my team on. And I keep reminding them of the standards, the Wolfgang standards, providing those ongoing trainings. So I think that's an important piece of it as well, Alex.
Makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you're pretty well versed on Arabian processes. Can
Mhm.
you share a process maybe specific on the grooming side that we could take away and implement, whether that be a new client check-in process that you've
Right,
built,
right, right.
post haircut check, or, just could you give us a snippet of a process that you built and maybe something that our audience could steal, like something tactical we could walk away with?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Alex. So this one's an open secret, but whenever we have a pet come in to Wolfgang, whether it's for the first time or whether it's a return customer, um, we always spend a few minutes understanding the customer's needs, and doing sort of this 8 point examination of the dog. We check the eyes, the ears, the teeth, feel out the furs, check for matting. We check the toes, and just get a very clear sense of what our starting point is. And we're very honest with pet parents. This is what I'm observing, and that helps us make better recommendations in terms of the service options as well. And it helps us manage some of the pet parents' expectations. The reality, Alex, is in this business, you'll have pets that haven't seen a groomer in some time come in, and then you have to tell them like, oh, unfortunately, I have to shave your dog, or there's we have to do this, or we couldn't get to this because they were, not in a good mood, or just, just a little bit too excited or whatever. So I think setting expectations, being an advisor to the pet parent, and building that trusting relationship with that pet parent, and then, just continuing to nurture it, I'd say that's probably one of the most important things we do.
I love that. That pre-appointment 8-point checklist is,
Mhm.
you're right, like an open secret where it's not, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's something that a lot of folks still don't do. If you don't mind, what do you guys do on the back end of an appointment? Do you guys, once the dog is done, is there anything in particular that you guys do? Any processes in place?
Yeah, so we Alex, we have a pretty good software that we use, and we just send a 15-minute notification to pet parents, or sometimes 30 minutes if they live further out, saying that, your pup is going to be ready in whatever X minutes. Because we're a spa, right? So we're in and out. We don't really hold dogs in kennels for more than 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. Um, So yeah, we send pet parents notifications, and then when they come in, we just take the dog out of the kennel, and we spend a few minutes talking about, how the pet did, just, giving sort of an update, and we always end with recommendations for what they can do at home, and sort of what, how, for example, some pups just not ready for certain things, right? Like, for example, puppies. So we come up with a plan for, like, how we can get to where we want to be, like, being able to do a full service, in maybe 2 visits or 3 visits or whatever it is. So yeah, that's sort of really the level of customized care we try to provide.
Do you guys push for recurring appointments?
So we obviously, we don't want to be overly salesy, but Alex, it's always good to have something in the book, especially as we start to get busy. We'd hate for someone to, not be able to book for a week or 2 weeks out. So it's always better to make your appointment in advance. We do encourage baths in between full grooms, or, just come in for a nail trim or brush out. So we always encourage that. And we do hope to build, like, sort of this ongoing relationship, so that, the condition of the coat is maintained, optimally. So that means coming in every 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is, or 10 weeks. So yeah.
What is your policy around discounting, or what's your framework to think through that?
Yeah, so Alex, we do offer a variety of discounts for first-time customers. Um, in particular, we offer discounts on Mondays and Tuesdays, because those tend to be the days when we see, lower appointments. So we really want to fill up the groomer schedules, versus the weekends, which are a lot busier, and typically we don't offer discounts then. Um, and then we also offer monthly specials. It's a different special for every month. Typically for customers, returning customers, just to, give them something to be excited for. So yeah, that's typically how we work.
And talk to me about pricing.
Mhm.
You said in the beginning days, before you had bought a business, you did some research around
Mhm.
pricing. Um,
Right,
I want to shift to you setting your prices, and you've only been at it for 2 or 3 months now, so
right.
I doubt you've raised your prices since. But how do you think about pricing, how you guys price your service, where you fit into the market?
Right.
Give me the methodology there.
Right. So there's a couple of things to consider here, Alex. So the first is, the market pricing. So, we did our research on where the market is pricing in Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, some of the adjacent cities. So we have a pretty good sense of, what the market is at, and we want to be sort of in that midpoint range to begin with, especially as we develop our or build our brand, and sort of earn our stripes, if you will, really, right? Like, it's all about, earning the customer trust, getting more reviews. That's how it is. The second part of it is groomer compensation. So groomers are typically, so there's two types of compensation. So one is sometimes people compensate them groomers hourly, and sometimes it's based on commission. We choose the latter, and so that's also a factor when you think of pricing as well. You have to think about, is the groomer being compensated fairly for the quality and quantity of their work? So that's sort of how we thought about when we did our analysis and made a decision on the pricing.
Makes a lot of sense. Talk to me again. I'm going to keep leaning into your processes, given that you are a process guy. What have you built out, or if you haven't built anything out, how do you think about career trajectory for your groomers in particular, your grooming department in particular?
Right.
You know, I'm talking about things to keep them motivated, things to keep away burnout, etc.
Right. No, that's a great point, Alex. So again, a couple of pieces to this. The first is scheduling. So we offer flexible scheduling. Most of our folks work 3 to 5 days a week, typically no more than 8 hours a day. I generally don't like folks working more than 8 hours a day, because then it can be really hard on the body. Just the grooming is a challenging profession by itself, but just working very long hours is not ideal. So we try to keep it at that. We offer flexible schedules. So if you give us notice 2 or 3 weeks out, you can take time off, no problem. So that's an important perk that our employees really appreciate. Now, in terms of training and development, we have the ongoing training. We also, if groomers want a specific kind of training, we offer that as well. And then we have a career ladder, if you will. We have the bather role, which is the entry point. So we currently have one bather, and then the bather can progress to being a groomer by doing we have a tie-up with the Paragon Pet School, so we put them through a training program, which is like 3 levels. Takes about a year, and then they can progress to being a groomer. And then even within the groomer career path, we have different levels that are determined by skill level and number of reviews and all of that. So there's always something to look forward to, and always sort of ongoing training and feedback as well.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to separate here my squirrel brain. Talk to me about, this is just one question I'm going to offload on you that I get all the time.
Sure.
There are tons of grooming salons and grooming shops out there that have only services, and they ask me, should they do retail? You guys obviously offer both, bakery, retail, and the service department.
Right.
Based on what you know and what your experience is so far, would you recommend a grooming salon to get into retail, or would you recommend that they stay away?
So I think, Alex, each person will have to make that decision individually. But I will say this, the running joke is retail is dead, but I think actually bad retail is dead. So it's really, finding that right mix of things that you want to sell, and knowing full well that there's going to be competition from Chewy, from Amazon, and even from sort of the big box shops that are selling so many different things. So merchandising is very important if you do choose to retail, and that's something that we are learning. So I look at sales data regularly to see what is selling, not selling. For example, recently we found that we weren't selling as many cat products, so that's an opportunity. So now we're stocking more cat products, even though we don't currently offer cat grooming. We still have toys and treats and all of that. So selecting the right set of merchandise is important. Another thing I can tell you as a business owner, so if you want to, if you're a groomer that's looking to do retail, you have to think about how much money you want to have tied down in inventory, because that's money that's not being spent, for example, on marketing or buying a new set of clippers or whatever. So thinking of sort of that opportunity cost is really important. Now, if you're thinking of it the other way, like a retail salon that's looking to get into grooming, obviously setting up like physically, like what it's going to look like is important. Hiring the right team is important, and then just really doing the math on how many grooms do you need in a day for that whole project to have been profitable after like say 1 year or whatever your time frame is. So that those are good questions to think of.
Thank you for the answer. I love that it's always a version of it depends, but you did give us. Before I move on from the retail combo, I'm curious, what are your best selling products? It seems like obviously there's like an art and a science to this. Of
Right. Right. No, I'd say like our cookies, we have this really elegant treat table just as you enter, and we stock it with fresh cookies. Um, and those are our top sellers, especially the seasonal ones, the happy birthdays and evergreen. Then we have a cupcake. So I think those are really what set us apart. Those are the top selling items. And the Wolfgang label items that we get from directly from Wolfgang are amazing. We have the chicken chips that we call crack chicken because they're so addictive. There's beef chips, and then there's a new line of freeze dried stuff. So I think that those are really doing well for us. And then we do sell a lot of Wolfgang branded toys as well. So those, if there's Wolfgang, whoever's watching this, if there's a Wolfgang near you, just go check it out. You'll be amazed by some of the selection of toys and treats and stuff. And if you're in Seattle, please come visit me. Yeah.
Okay, so for somebody listening
Mhm.
who's dreaming about starting their own business and maybe scared to take the leap,
Mhm.
what advice would you give? Obviously, we kind of mentioned you knew that you wanted to go do it. I would imagine there's a ton
Right.
of people out there that are maybe even listening and working for a salon and they want to go start their own. What kind
Right.
of advice would you give now that you're on the other side?
Right. So I would say the first thing is like each person has to take stock of where they currently are in terms of what skills do they bring to the table. Are they a groomer? Are they a salon manager? Are they someone like me that's entrepreneurial? So like take stock, be honest. If you need to hire a coach or hire someone, or find a mentor or someone, and I'll say I've found plenty of mentors throughout this process who have guided me, some of whom are my friends and family and others. But yeah, take stock of where you are, have people like give you some feedback on, this is what you're good at. So that's a very important piece. Also take stock of where you are financially. Obviously we're all on our own financial journey, but like how much money can you put down? What are the other sources of capital? How much do you need in order to do, if you're doing a mobile grooming, you just need a truck and the tools, but if you want to set up a brick and mortar salon, you need more. So think through some of that, do some rough numbers, and yeah, then really like hopefully you can make a good decision. Now in terms of the fear is one of the things that holds people back, or like sort of a set of sort of sense of limitation in terms of their own capabilities. But I think for most people, just being honest with where you are and where those gaps lie, that'll help you get to where you want to be, or even make you realize that, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Like I just don't have the appetite for it, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, I think that sort of honest introspection is really the most important piece of it.
That was a much deeper answer than I thought. That was
Mm-hmm.
a that was a very deep answer, Anurag. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Last question for you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tell me what the best part of your day is now compared to the corporate world.
Right. So I'd say the best, there's a couple of good parts. I enjoy the flexibility in my schedule. Um, I am also working on a couple of projects on the side. So I do appreciate have like being able to structure my day the way I want to, and just being there when I want to, and having a team support me. I think that's great. I love meeting cute doggos and pet parents. So now I spend a lot of my time, going to apartment buildings for events, walking in the park, just trying to interact with pet parents and cute doggos. So I think that really excites me. It gets me going. So yeah, I think that those are the best parts of it. Really, just
Yeah.
building the brand and interacting with folks.
No, I love that, man. I mean, trading in
Mhm.
the keyboard for the cute doggos. That sounds like a good trade to me.
Yeah. And I will
On
say I kind of have a personality of a golden retriever. Like
yeah,
I'm extroverted. I want to meet everyone. So I find it energizing.
that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. It sounds like you're in the right spot then, right?
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Anurag, for coming on. I want to give people a chance to check out um, you guys, learn a little bit more
Hmm.
about what you guys are doing, whether that be your website or your Facebook page or whatever it is.
Right.
What's a good place people can find more information?
Yeah, you can find find our website, or you can just Google us, Wolfgang Bakery and Grooming, Capitol Hill, or whatever city you're in. Like if you're in LA or New York or Dallas or Miami, just Google your city name and you'll find a Wolfgang typically in that city. We also have a Wolfgang Bakery and Grooming app, which will allow you to book at any Wolfgang store in the country. So we're very tech forward. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. And then if you're in Seattle, I'm going to be at the WAG Festival next month in Mount Lake Terrace. So do check us out. And you'll probably find me in Denny Park or Cal Anderson Park most evenings giving out treats.
Nice.
So
All right, dude. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, Anurag. Really, really appreciate it. We'd love to have you come back on again, maybe in a year from now, and get the
yeah,
1 year update.
absolutely. We'd love to, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's the pod.